Today on Nemology, we have one of the most powerful and transformative conversations of the entire season. Our guest, Roop, is a rare combination of worlds: technology, spirituality, strategy, consciousness, pain, reinvention, and purpose. Roop went from a corporate career in the United States to becoming an international speaker, a two-time TEDx presenter, and the leading voice in blockchain from a human and strategic perspective. But behind that success lies a deep and painful story: losing his mother, hitting emotional rock bottom, and a 10-day Vipassana retreat that quite literally brought him back to life. In this episode, we dive into transformation, trauma, meditation, hypnosis, manifestation, ego, grief, purpose, and the inner work that shapes the outer world. Roop teaches us how to navigate life as a mindful rebel, to question, to feel, to create, and to live awake. Get ready for a conversation that blends the technical, the spiritual, and the deeply human with a clarity you won't forget. Welcome to Nemology. Roop, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Dude, we met in the funniest way.
We did.
We did, with a little bit of racism, right?
Yeah.
I had to put that out there.
Okay.
But you know what's cool? In Serbia, where I'm from, we don't believe in racism. So It's all fair games.
Okay.
Now, for the audience, just funny, Roop was telling me about what he does. We're getting introduced to each other. And I think you said, I'm in personal transformation and blockchain technologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, public transportation. Oh, great. Yeah, most of my Punjabi friends are in the same thing. They all have trucks and whatever. And you're like, well, that's extremely racist, but that's not what I said. I said personal transformation.
Well, I'm glad you have Punjabi friends.
Yes.
Yeah. So on that note, Sat Sri Akal.
Sat Sri Akal.
Yes. Punjabi aage hoye.
Yeah.
Punjabis are in the house.
That's it.
Yeah. And not all Punjabis run truck.
Yes, it's true. Not all, as we've learned.
Yes, and all respect to them, the ones that do.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was interesting the way we met, and now we're here.
Now, you have been on great platforms like TED Talks, and you've spoken on other podcasts. You've kind of been out there. And actually, when I watched the video that you sent me, I was shocked that you were talking about blockchain like 6 years ago in such a great way that I wish I found that 6 years ago. Because 6 years ago, I was like, what the fuck is blockchain? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the speaking, into the TED Talks, into everything?
It's interesting. So back in 2015, 16, I was living the corporate life.
Yeah.
In the United States. I'm originally from India.
Yeah.
But I was living in the United States and I was in the corporate world. And about 2016, I was very disillusioned, dissatisfied with what I was doing, the environment I found myself in. And I thought that there is more to life, there's more to me, there's more potential, there's more things to do, and there's more talent to share and gifts to share with the world. So I quit my corporate job and I started traveling. It's my own eat, pray, love story. So I traveled to Costa Rica, I traveled to Thailand, and I traveled to India. And then when I got back, I had this epiphany and I decided that I'm going to pivot my career, my professional life into the blockchain space.
Yeah.
And as I did that, then doors started opening. I started learning about it myself. I was learning multiple disciplines that contribute to that space. And I eventually found out that there is a need for explaining things better, as you said.
Right.
It was always approached from a very technical standpoint,
right? Yeah.
Which is necessary but not sufficient.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people did not have a clue on what power it could have for businesses, for personal transformation, for things that they hadn't even envisioned the use cases. So then an opportunity came. I applied to some TED Talks and, so on and so forth. Eventually ended up doing 2 of them, one at TEDx Atlanta and then another at TEDx Emory. There are different ones. One is on blockchain as a solution for digital identity and privacy.
Yeah.
And the other one is real-world asset tokenization and the history of tokenization through the global history of assets, and then how blockchain can be used to tokenize real-world assets and how that would transform our markets and our economies.
Yeah, that was my biggest interest in that space. I never want to venture too far from what I'm doing. I always look for something that's kind of lateral to me that I can kind of synergize with and still keep doing this, but just with another layer. And you're absolutely right. That was the issue that I had when I was trying to learn about it. It's every time that I would think I understand the next thing, there's like all this technology talk that, well, now I have to research this and understand this, and just
Yeah.
it never ends until you just realize, okay, you know what, this isn't for me. I don't care. I don't want to be involved with it. Maybe
Yeah.
later. And then listening to you, like, you know, you're like, I love history. So you're talking about how the Dutch were the first to kind of bring this to fore, and this was 1400s. So now, you know, centuries later, another version of the same thing that already happened is happening. And it was way easier for me to kind of understand what is happening through your analogy, because it was shining light on something that already happened, and I already understood that. So now this was just another version of that's happening. So I don't have to get into the weeds of the technology and be like, okay, I don't get any of this. It's not my background, but I'm understanding what's happening and how it could potentially be used. And now it gets my mind thinking.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you found it valuable. Most of the conversation at that time, and even now, end up in the crypto world.
Yeah.
Right? People don't view blockchain as a foundational technology for what it is. And since they get lost in the technical weeds, they don't come up to a 30,000 foot level and see what the potential business use cases could be. So I developed a course called Blockchain Strategy for Business Leaders. Blockchain Strategy for Business Leaders. And the purpose of the course is exactly what you described, to discuss the why before the how. And it's a multidisciplinary course. It's a course that teaches you the basics of the technology, and we get into the architecture, but it also talks about innovation, disruption. It talks about business strategy. It talks about tokenization. It talks about developing ecosystems and getting adoption of your blockchain products and ventures. So that is what was needed. In my own learning, I found that is what is missing in the conversation.
Yes.
And I was talking to professors and students and, CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, even director level people, even developers. And everybody had, it was like they're looking at this cube, but they all had a different vantage point. And they couldn't connect that this is the same cube they're looking at.
Yeah.
And everybody had their own take on it, and they would latch on to just one specific use case that they loved, but they didn't recognize, or they failed to acknowledge, that it is a foundational technology with multiple use cases, with many different applications, and depends on how those markets then evolve and where do you want to play in it.
Yeah.
Just like the internet or the steam engine of the past, it is a foundational technology.
Yeah. Yeah. My attempt at things that I don't understand has always been, you know what, I'll just wait until the collective consciousness catches up, and then I'll just draw from there. And it's kind of like that. There were two stories. Like, one was about the monkeys on an island where essentially they taught the monkeys how to wash fruit. Monkeys never used to eat dirty fruit off the beach. And they taught the monkeys how to wash fruit, and between two generations, all the monkeys now knew how to wash fruit. Now, funny things started to happen. You had monkeys on other islands all across the world that were now learning how to wash fruit, and they were never doing that before. So there is like a collective consciousness thing happening. The same thing with, the record for the 100-meter dash, right?
Yeah.
You think, this is impossible, this is impossible. And as soon as one person breaks it, suddenly that belief changes. And now there's multiple people that are able to break even higher records. They just fall under that 10-second mark. So for me, that was the same thing. I'm like, I'm just going to wait until it gets to that point, and then I can draw from that.
It's beautiful.
Which, you also come from that sort of background as well. So tell me a little bit about your origin story. How did you get into something, as, seemingly difficult and technical as blockchain, but also you have the other side of you, which is the mindfulness, which is you're a hypnotist, which we got to cover, and the meditation and kind of all of that.
Yeah. I mean, those are two parallel tracks in my life, So I'm originally from India, from Punjab, and I moved to the United States when I was 22. And I lived in the United States for 22 years, and then eventually last year I moved to Medellin. My background is in computer science. I went to school for it, but I was not really into the development side of things. I was always interested in 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 foot level. So I got into essentially architecture and then aligning strategy with technology. So technology strategy is what my sweet spot is.
Yeah.
And hence the term for the course, blockchain strategy for business leaders. So I like to look at things from a multiple disciplinary point of view.
Right.
To me, that's how I connect the dots. It's not enough to just understand one discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in the corporate world doing business process management, essentially. And then once I discovered blockchain, what I saw was this was a more effective way of automating and managing business processes. And we can get into the technical side, but that's what drew my interest.
Right.
Because I could connect the dots from the business process world and say, okay, if these processes were on a blockchain, if all the participants, all the partners of this business were on a particular chain and we were exchanging data securely together, life would be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to give you an analogy, imagine that we are in a village, similar to a village with the monkeys. There's humans, there's monkeys, and then we are transacting amongst each other in the village.
Mm-hmm.
We are trading, we're bartering, we're selling, and there are a set of transactions amongst us, like Nemo, me, Maria, all these people.
Mm-hmm.
So in the old model, what we used to do is we said, okay, we will record the transaction on a piece of stone and we will call it our version of the truth. And then we got to a world where we delegated or we abdicated in some ways that trust to a third party.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe he was a bookkeeper. And then eventually we started calling him the bank.
Right.
And we would say, okay, let's say that the transactions amongst all of us in the village, we will believe whatever the ledger of the bank told us. Doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what I believe. The absolute truth is the ledger that the bank holds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a third party. It's not you and me, it's the third party. So the question is, what is a different model? What's a different way of doing it? So now imagine that there is a shared wall in front of us in the village, in the main town square. There's a shared wall.
Yeah.
Every time we have a transaction, you sell me 20 potatoes, I sell her 80 bananas. We go and write that on the shared wall. Once we write that, it's a wall of stone, so it cannot be deleted or erased. It is there permanently.
Right.
Number two, as soon as we write that, you believe, I believe, and the rest of the network, which is the village, knows that this is a authentic transaction that happened between these two people, and now it is on a public shared wall. So then there is no reason for us to debate that. What happened 2 years ago at this date? Well, let's see what's on the wall. Right?
Yeah.
There's no reason for us to reconcile our records over and over again. Why? Because there's one version of the truth, which is the shared wall. In case somebody wants to come audit it, they don't even have to talk to you and me. If they have the authority to audit it, they just go to the shared wall. They know exactly what the transactions were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 20 years ago. And this is essentially blockchain.
Right.
It's a shared, secured ledger.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you look at this from a first principles basic point of view, you find that there are multiple applications that this could be used for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I got off track from the origin story.
Yeah, a little bit, but that was great. That's going to be a great clip because that's another. I love the analogies you use because they make it very easy to digest this.
Yeah, and that's the idea. That's how we learn as humans.
Yeah.
So, where was I?
Origin.
Yeah, origin. So I had a career in the technical and business strategy space.
Yeah.
But then a lot of things happened in my life around 2007 timeframe that made me move into a different direction, more of personal growth, personal reflection, personal transformation. And that's the path I have carried on. So I guess we'll get more detail into that.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of always happens. I mean, and I think it's happening maybe there, but what was your darkest moment?
Well, how dark do you want to go?
The darkest.
So in 2006, I was living in Atlanta, United States, And my I got a phone call. It was my grandfather, my mother's father, who was in India, and he was just crying on the phone. And I'd never seen him or heard him cry. It was my grandfather. And he told me that my mother's been in an accident, and it's been 2 days, and they didn't tell me yet because they weren't sure what was going to happen. And at that moment, I left everything as it was. I literally left my apartment open, bought a really expensive ticket, and just dashed over to India. And when I got there, I found I don't know how dark you want to get, but um, my mother was mostly burnt.
Mm.
About 65, 70% of her body was burnt. And she was in the burn ICU. She was alive then. And that started a process of helping her recuperate and recover. Um, and it started a very different trajectory of my life where I was around the burn ICU a lot.
Hmm.
Over the course of 4.5 months, we changed 3 different hospitals. I I saw a lot of death. Um, the burn ICU has a mortality rate of like 96%, meaning of 100 people that go inside a burn ICU, only 4 come back alive.
Wow.
I saw the doctors, how they worked. I saw the nurses, and hats off to all the nurses and doctors out there. They're doing God's work. It's a very difficult profession, both technically from a medicine standpoint, but also emotionally. And I saw a lot of people just living in hospitals, a lot of suffering, a lot of death, a lot of suffering. And that fundamentally changed me. Eventually, my mother died after 4.5 months of fighting with illness and multiple graft surgeries and multiple treatments and different hospitals. And yeah, so eventually she passed away. And at that time, uh, I was just lost. Uh, so in the next few months, she was the only child of her parents.
Yeah.
So I had grandparents to take care of. And at that time, my sister was 14 years old. So for a 14-year-old girl to lose her mother at that age is a really traumatic and strange experience. Um, so going through those times, I really was almost checked out of life. I was just surviving. I was staying with my grandparents in their place, trying to help them, trying to wrap up all the financial and legal things that happen after your parent passes away and just dealing with all that. And I had no interest in anything. I had no interest in coming back to America. I had no interest in talking to people. I had no interest in life. So at that point, I was talking to a friend of mine who was very insistent that I talk to him. He eventually, basically tricked me into going to a place. He made it sound like I'd be going for a vacation, but eventually I ended up in a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's called Vipassana, if you've heard of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And this was in North India. I went to a small center because that's the only place we could find a seat. There's usually a backlog there. This was in Hoshiarpur in Punjab in India. And the way that place is set up is you go check in on the first day. You basically give your keys, to your car and you give your belongings and you take a vow of silence. So there's no TV,
Hmm.
there's no phone, there's no books, there's no paper, there's no pen. You take a vow of silence to not talk to other people who are there. So no verbal communication, no nonverbal communication. So you're completely cut off. It's a nice, beautiful, serene surrounding in a compound, so you can walk around. But your job there is to meditate in 10, 11 hours a day. The first bell is at 4 o'clock. 4:30 is the first sitting. And there's a teacher, there's an assistant teacher and a teacher, which is basically a recording that teaches you the technique. And you're just asked to shut up, sit down, and meditate. One session after another. They feed you 3, 4 times a day. There's nothing else to do. Every few hours, just go sit and meditate. Nobody to talk to, nothing to distract or, shift your mind from. Eventually, you just have to go inside of yourself and you have to deal with whatever's happening in your inner world. So by the third day, I wanted to run away, like the rebel I am. I fought with them. I tried to get out, but they were very patient and very, very basic. They don't indulge in conversations or detailed deep dives with you. Their simple answer is, okay, just do one more sit. Sit is the meditation center. So just sit down one more time. Just sit and meditate. That's all I did. By the 9th, 10th day, I didn't want to leave. I was in such a peaceful place, and I thought that if I left, I would never find this peace again. It's like the world is tricked, and if I go back out there in that world, I really love it here. I'm really calm and peaceful and aligned, and all I have to do is just sit, close my eyes, and just observe what is happening in my body. And I could do that for 24 hours. Eat the little food I need and just exist.
Yeah. I've had some friends that have gone to the ones that are here in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like 3, 4 days, they're kind of at that same point.
Mm-hmm.
The longest one did 7.
Mm-hmm.
So you did 10. That's an incredibly long time.
Yeah, so this form of meditation, Vipassana, the legend is that Gautam Buddha, who achieved nirvana, liberation, enlightenment, at the age of 32, sitting under a Bodhi tree, his contribution was that he experimented with a lot of different types of meditations, techniques, and this is the one he found nirvana with. And the legend is that they still teach it in the same format as they taught 2,500 years ago. So from the age of 35 to 80 something till he passed on to a different plane, he just created these large camps and courses for people to come learn meditation. And the beauty of it was it doesn't require intellect. It doesn't require you to read. It doesn't require you to understand much. All it is your body and your mind. And what connects the two is the breath. And it literally is a technique based on that. So it's very elemental. It's very scientific. It's very physics-based, if you want to call it that. So it's still taught in the same 10-day format. So Vipassana meditation, you cannot learn in any other way. You have to take 10 days out of your life, go to one of these courses and sit and isolate yourself. And I think that's the right way. That is the way. If I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't be here now. That changed my life's trajectory. That saved me. And this is not a hyperbole or exaggeration. That I could come back to life, so to say, slowly and gradually. But I found a way to do that.
Right.
And I found a way to process whatever emotions I was feeling that were pent up out in my body and in my mind, and I could become functional again, so to say.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think for some of us it's events, and for some of us it's people or teachers or mentors or people of influence. So who would you say, now that I know you've had this experience, which is incredible, but is there a person that was your biggest coach or mentor or influence in your life that?
Well, I would have a few, not just one. On this path, as you know, by faith I'm a Sikh, and I'm a proud one at that. So, as Sikhs, we've had a series of 10 gurus, teachers, and now we have the 11th guru, which is our living book, the Guru Granth Sahib. So, I have connected deeply with the life stories of some of our gurus, and their lives and their teachings have given me grounding and a sense of belief and a sense of self and a sense of identity. Once I got into this meditation journey, this continued on. I mean, this was 2007, my first meditation retreat. But then I got interested in the space and I started learning a lot more different modalities, different types of techniques, meditation, yoga, tantra, you know, there's so many uh, things out there. So I just I became like a seeker. I
Hmm.
started seeking because once you know that there is a path, I was just curious to find out what else.
Yeah.
And I wanted to feel the depth inside me. I wanted to figure out, what else is out there, just out of curiosity. And I've always been gravitated toward depth. So eventually I found teachers in Thailand in 2016. That's the
Hmm.
period I was telling you that I'd gone to a retreat with them like a year ago. And then during my travels in 2016, I just stayed at their ashram. And I studied a lot of yoga, meditation. I mean, I created my own schedule, get up in the morning, do meditation, then eat some fruits, then do yoga, then read books on these topics. And then in the afternoon, have sit down debates and discourses with my teachers,
Hmm.
and just that's the way I learned. I learned by debate.
Yeah.
um, and frankly, kudos to them that they could have a difficult student like me. you know I'm not an easy student, because I challenge a lot, and that's my way of learning. And if a teacher could not handle that challenges, then he or she is not a worthy teacher in my mind, right? So they understood that, and I did a lot of work with them, personal transformation work, a lot of different techniques to clear my inner world, and to understand thyself. Right?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate objective, anyhow. So that was a transformatory period for me, and I would credit them for that time. Um, on the business and tech side, I should definitely mention Dr. Ben Kaczynski. Is a professor at Emory, Goethe School of Business. And we've just had a lot of amazing conversations, a lot of good debates, discourses. He's one of the few people that could challenge my thinking and push me in certain directions, very firmly and very gently, but he's amazing at that. And he has a wealth of knowledge, and that was also amazing transformation on the business and technical side and how the world works in that way.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the hypnotist part.
Yes.
So how did that come about? Where did that come from?
That's another one of these serendipitous stories. So, when was it? Trying to remember. It's good 10 years ago now, maybe 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So, a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, this another friend is he lives in North Carolina. He's passing through town. He wants a place to stay that night, and can he stay with you?" I said, "That's fine." So it turns out that that gentleman was a medical doctor, like a physician,
Okay.
and a hypnotist.
Oh, wow.
So, given my curiosity in these things, and I'd already been deep into the, let's call it, the energy world, and
Hmm.
meditation and philosophy of all that. And even at that point I was into yoga and hatha yoga specifically, and tantra and all of those elements. So we just ended up having these conversations, sitting at night, just having these intellectual conversations. So then he asked me if I would like to try to be hypnotized as a subject. And I agreed. So that was the first time I was a subject. And that started the journey again. So I worked with him for my own shifts and working on things that I needed using the modality of hypnosis. But then I got so curious that I started studying it myself. So I found a few courses, I found a few teachers. Eventually, I got certified and then inducted in the National Guild of Hypnotists, which is in the US. And then I started helping other people, just like, I'll say his name to give him credit, Dr. Arthur, who's still a dear friend of mine. And he got me started on that track. And then I learned and I started helping other people because I saw the potential, I saw the value, and I saw the need.
Yeah. How have you used that in your life, in your daily life?
Oh, in many profound ways, man. So, well, let me back up and just explain the little bit of the modality and what it can be used for, because there's a
Sure.
lot of myths about hypnosis. And then we can get into how I have personally used it. So, question back to you. What do you think hypnosis is?
Look at this watch.
Exactly. That's most people, that's their view, right? And most people have seen, maybe they've gone to Vegas and have like a stage hypnosis show and,
Right.
for entertainment. And, you make a guy walk like a chicken and, you
Yeah.
make a girl bark like a dog, whatever,
Yeah.
right? That's entertainment. That's not what hypnosis is for me. So primarily or fundamentally, hypnosis is very scientific. If I asked you, hey, have you ever been hypnotized? What would you say?
Yes.
Okay, like you've been through a hypnotist.
I've been through like a Reiki session that
Okay.
got me there through what I would assume would be some form of hypnosis.
Okay, interesting. Most people say that they've never been in a hypnotic trance, and that's a myth. If you wake up in the morning and you go back to sleep at night, within those 24 hours, you go through hypnotic trance twice. So what is it? Our brains vibrate at a certain frequency, right? In this awake conscious state, right now, our brains are vibrating at a certain frequency. And when we are in deep sleep, what we call REM sleep, the brain is vibrating at a different frequency, right? So there is a range of frequencies our brain goes through from REM sleep to awakened consciousness. There's a spectrum of that from specifically 4 megahertz to 7.5 megahertz. And that band we label as hypnotic trance. So you, as a person, goes through that twice in 24 hours. There are multiple ways to get into that, land into that space. You can get through music. You can go through a flow state like dance. You can go into it even while driving. Have you ever had this experience that you going to one place from one point A to point B, but you do that every day? Maybe your work and your office, and you actually forget how you get there.
Yeah.
You just arrive there and you have no recollection of the path you took.
Yeah.
Because you were in a trance, right? That doesn't mean you were asleep, but you were in a receptive, open state, a trance-like state. So multiple ways to get there. So what hypnosis is a naturally occurring phenomena. Now, we can induce it externally through myself, like as a guide, as a medium to help you get there. So one myth is that hypnosis is something that takes over your mind and is something that I am doing external, etc., etc. All of that is a myth. It's a naturally occurring scientific phenomena, just a label on a set of brain frequencies. When your brain is in that frequency, you feel like you are in a state of hypnosis.
Yeah.
Right? The second myth is, and I'm going to bust this for your audience. So people think hypnosis is something somebody else is doing to them. But the biggest secret is that all hypnosis is eventually self-hypnosis. You are allowing yourself to get there.
Right.
Unless you give your body and mind permission to get there, I cannot force you in any which way to get there. I can help you and guide you. I can channel you, but you have to go there yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, technically, there is a difference when somebody else does it versus you do it through your own mind-body container. But eventually, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
So now the question becomes, well, what do you use this modality for? What can you use this modality for? And here, there's a lot of debate. There's two kinds of people in the world, the woo-woo type and the science type, right? And they keep clashing. So we will talk about that in a second. But a very simple way for me to look at hypnosis as a modality, it can do two things. It can improve, amplify, accelerate, add everything you want in life. What is that? What do people want? More money, more love, more gratitude, a better sex life, better health. What else do people want?
Power.
More power, more belief in themselves to attain that power, right? And what do people not want? What do you want to get rid of? All the fears, all the trauma, all the phobia, all the limiting beliefs, all the things that sabotage you.
Yeah.
Right? So you can remove, eliminate, delete all the things that you don't want using hypnosis. You can quit smoking. You can get over your fear of flying. You can manage your pain. These days, there's scientific clinical studies that show the effect of hypnosis in helping you alleviate cancer. Right? So we've gone to that point. There's multiple studies talking about pain management and stress and anxiety and everything that comes with it. Right? So you remove things you don't want and you enhance and improve things you do want. And these are the two buckets I look at hypnosis at.
Right.
Right? Now, it depends on the subject and what your needs are and what you come, most people come with a presenting symptom, but there's a lot going on underneath. And that's what the challenge or the talent of the hypnotist is, to go deeper and find out what really needs to be addressed and not just the surface level symptom.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the modality and that's what it could be used for. Right? Now, personally, I'll be giving away some secrets, but if I get into that, but I'll give you some interesting instances. We can connect some dots here. So you talked about my TEDx talks, right? My first TEDx talk was in 2019 in Atlanta. And it was at Rialto Theater. So if anybody knows about Atlanta, it's a huge theater with an amazing legacy. Grammy winners, amazing stars, maestros have performed there. And it's a stage that is very hallowed and it has a beautiful legacy. It's a huge theater, maybe 1,000-person theater, right? To come on that stage and know that you're going to be giving a talk and then being recorded, which cannot be edited or deleted later, it's going to be, on camera forever. I essentially used hypnosis to become a better, a more present, a more calm public speaker. So a lot of my work in developing the talk was, yes, I had to develop the content of the talk, the words, the delivery, et cetera, et cetera. You do that. But then a lot of my work was actually just being present on stage. Right? What is the opposite of that? The opposite of that is getting nervous, stumbling your words, eating your words, breaking down. Just that occasion can overwhelm you, right?
Yeah.
And, singers and rock stars have this type of experience. So how does one deliver what one has prepared on the day of, right? It's easy to do it in front of you in my bedroom or in my living room in front of friends, but it's a very different occasion at that time, right? And this is what athletes call game day. You have all the skills, you practice the skills, but how do you perform on game day?
Yeah.
Right? And that requires a certain level of visualization, certain level of practice of how that's going to go. Without going into specific details of techniques, etc., I used it for that purpose.
Yeah.
So on the day of, I'd been doing it for a while, but literally on the day of my talk was in the afternoon. I don't think I've ever shared these things with anybody, by the way. It feels a little uncanny. Just I caught
Yeah.
myself getting into that story. But my talk was in the afternoon, and I found, there's a lot of people outside in like it's basically a big party. So a lot of people are meeting and greeting, and there's like vendors, and there's like a festival type scenario going on. Rather than hanging out outside with the people and mingling and shaking hands, I mean, I had a lot of friends that come over and whatnot. I found a room in the theater, like a dark room in the basement, and I told people where I am just so they can find me. And I actually had a friend of mine who was a hypnotist, or he is a hypnotist, and he called me and he was working on me, right?
Mm.
So I was literally doing yoga, meditation, and hypnosis for a few hours. I got there in the morning, and by the time they called me on stage,
Yeah.
I was just in that zone.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything else. Like
Mm.
10 minutes before my call time, somebody found me in the room and said, okay, time. And I walked in there. And as a public speaker, public speakers know this, being on stage, you have a diffused level of awareness. It's a very different kind of experience. What the audience experiences is not what the speaker experiences, right? And in fact, my talk went way better than what I expected, but
Yeah.
exactly what I expected intellectually, but it exactly went like how I visualized. You understand the distinction?
Yeah. Yeah.
Intellectually, I still had doubts and fears
Right.
because that's normal, natural for a human.
Of course.
And whoever says to you before a big game day, before a big performance, before a big moment that they
Yeah.
don't have that is simply lying,
Yeah.
right? So having that is not a challenge. Succumbing to it and identifying with it and falling down with it is the issue.
Right.
So I still intellectually had those doubts, but my experience on stage went exactly like I had visualized in my mind,
Mm.
right? And athletes use that a lot,
Yeah.
and you can apply these principles in many areas of your life.
Absolutely. Just to double back a little bit, you said something. You said we're hypnotized twice a day.
Mm.
One thing that my parents used to hate and my wife now hates is I absolutely love the snooze button on my alarm.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like even if it's a day off, I still have the alarm because I want to wake up and then I want to know that I can go back to sleep with no responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And in that state,
Mm-hmm.
that in between awake and asleep is where I experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I can go through entire scenarios and they're happening automatically in front of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can work through things and see if I like or don't like what would happen from a certain action.
Mm-hmm.
And I can play in this like sort of metaphysical personal playground that ends up being so soul nourishing to me that I know all the studies say, snooze alarm is bad, don't do this, da, da, da. But to me, that's kind of how I access that. And it's one of the most enjoyable things that I love about my daily activities is, those like automatic 9 minutes. And I know I'm like, okay, I have 9 minutes, boom. It's like instant. I go into that world and I wait for that alarm, but I know that I got this 9 minutes of timelessness where I can just play.
There's a name for that state, and there's actually a name for the technique you have been inadvertently doing.
No, great. Now we know.
Would you like to know?
Absolutely.
So we call that alpha state.
Alpha state.
Right? It's just a level of brain frequency.
Yeah.
Right? And as I explained, there are various states, and you can just Google this stuff. It's nothing remarkable, right? So what happens is, in that state, your subconscious mind is still not, let's say, connected to the limitations and filters that you have downloaded over the years of living. Right? It's a blank canvas. You called it a playground.
Yeah.
And I imagine that you do a lot of imagination, visualization, creative work during that time.
Yeah.
And that is the state that is the most potent or is an enabler of that kind of space. So actually, you should look up Silva method. So Joe Silva is a practitioner who actually documented and created a method exactly how you describe it. He taught his daughter to wake up in the middle of the night at a specific time, about 3 or 3:30 a.m., where you induce, or the alpha state is already induced. You just have to be alert enough to purposefully use the space in a directed way.
Right.
We all have lucid dreams.
Yeah.
So that is an undirected world.
Yeah.
Right? The space exists, but you're not directing what is happening in the lucid dream.
Yeah.
But if I told you that you can take the same canvas, the same space, and you can direct what you want out of life.
Yeah.
What manifestations you want, what imagery you want to see.
Yeah.
It could be, let's say you have a soccer game today and you want to score a goal in that soccer game. Or you have a date and you want to be a certain way in front of your potential lover. Or it is a big performance on stage and you're performing music. Or it could be your presentation at work.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is, that space allows you to direct your attention and visualize what you want to manifest.
Yeah.
And you will be so surprised how remarkably true those manifestations become. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let me add a caveat to that, at the opposite side. A lot of us, without any judgment, a lot of us have a lot of negative visualizations running in our mind, even during that time.
Yeah.
Right? Without getting into why. That's a whole separate discussion. To me, it really doesn't matter why. But all those negative visualizations, bad things happening to you, you know, what are bad things? Accidents, people dying, you know, all the negative things that you can imagine, losing money, etc., etc. All the bad things happening to you. If you keep visualizing them in that state, at some point in life, they might actually come true.
Yeah.
So that is a very potent space to play in. It's a playground. And we must be really very mindful of how we direct that energy in that space. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I've actually worked through a lot of negative scenarios. Sometimes when I felt that certain things could potentially be unavoidable or inevitable, I would play out the scenario to see how I would feel, so I could work through those emotions, create that preparation, and then from there, I was able to redirect that energy into another scenario that I could try to focus on and maybe change that inevitability that seemed inevitable until I was okay with it happening. And going through the different scenarios, well, how would I feel? What would happen? What would I do? Working through that and playing that out, eventually I was like, well, you know, there's a way. I found the one out of the 100 ways that this doesn't happen. What does that look like? And now it switches to the opposite. And then all of this energy gets transmuted to all of this energy, and now it becomes something that's positive, something that's powerful and potent, but I gotta direct it that way. And I gotta pass through that. And it's sort of something that, it's so weird how it happens, because it feels like, you know, it takes a really long time, but you look at the clock and it was like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it just, you're like, what, really? I just had a whole movie.
Yeah, it's a diffused state anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, the concept of space and time doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, so, so can I give you a tip on that?
Absolutely.
Since you're already practicing this? In your description, you described working through. There's a scenario that's inevitable, and I'm looking at the negative side. I'm supposing here, right? I'm putting words to what you described.
Yeah.
So you're playing out the scenarios, which includes the negative scenarios.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is direct that energy solely to your positive expected scenario. And this is where we have a debate between well, what if the negative will happen? Well, first of all, you don't know that, right? This is where we get into quantum theory. In every given moment, there are multiple possibilities of what might happen. It is not determined or deterministic, right? Which possibility you might take. Life is chaotic.
Yeah.
We all are random beings running around. What specific possibility happens? For example, what was the possibility of me running into you while I was waiting for that Uber?
Yeah.
Right? What had to transpire?
Correct.
Right? Or people might have seen these synchronicities in their life, So focus your energy on the possibility that you desire, not on the possibility that you seek to avoid.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times, I've experienced this myself, this becomes literally a debate and almost like a battle of the mind, because your mind wants to go to the negative possibility. It cannot but go there. It like, the more you want to go this way, the more it pulls you this way, right? So then you have to learn how to breathe, how to surrender into that space, and then calmly direct your mind to the possibility you want to happen, and not succumb to the other. And this is a battle, right? And as they say, all battles are won in the mind or lost.
Yeah. I follow. Okay. Now, would you say, this is an interesting question, I think, would you say, because there's one thing that I wanted to throw in there and get your perspective on. I no longer in my life really try to avoid things. I sort of have like, that true North Star where I know where I'm going. I know what I want to happen, and I'm okay with everything else. And I'm okay with all the possibilities happening. And I think that I find, I'm one of those people, and maybe this is just our culture, right? Instead of being like, we love to complain about shit. Like we love to complain about anything and everything. And I think that there's a certain positivity in that. It may not look like it to somebody that is not from a culture that understands that, but there's a lot of bonding with that. And
meaning complaining about shit.
Yes,
misery loves company.
Exactly. And one of the easiest ways to build rapport, I mean, sales will teach you this, is find something common to hate. Find something common to complain about.
Yeah.
And that brings you way closer than anything that you love, anything that you can, sports, it doesn't matter. You find that, hey, that guy fucking missed that shot. Can you believe it? Fuck that guy. That's the easiest, best way. So for me, I don't have like a huge negative connotation to negativity or complaining. It just kind of all is. And then I just pick what I want out of it. And one of the things that I've always kind of focused on, if there is that something negative that it is, it's more so, well, if this could happen, I turn the preparation for the negativity of it happening into a positive experience where I can be prepared for that to happen. And through that, I'm able to then also let go of the fear, because I think you'll agree, the more energy you give it, right, the more likely it is to happen. So if you have a fear of it, you're manifesting it, you're bringing it to happen. So the more that you run away, like you said, it pulls you. But the more you go through it or towards it, in that acceptance of, well, it could happen, and then this will happen, and I'll feel like this, and it'll be okay. And then what'll that feel like? Well, it'll feel like this. Okay, it's just a feeling. I can allow that to pass, and it'll pass, and eventually we'll go back to normal, and that's it. I think that has always been like the way that I approach all the negative things, because the way that I grew up, a lot of things were inevitable. And I was never taught to like run away from problems. It was, you got to go through it. And I think because there was no option but to go through it, for a lot of the things that I went through, it's just a natural thing. I see something, I'm like, I got to go towards that right away. Because if I have peace everywhere, and now this is the opposite of peace, well, then this is what requires attention to be turned back into peace. It's kind of like a garden, and I got to take that weed out right away. If I ignore it, it's just going to spread. So that's the way that I kind of feel about that. And I don't, I don't have a negative opinion about negativity. You know what I mean? Because it's all perspective in the end anyway. Right?
So what's the question?
So the question is, if you are saying that you are going to focus on the positivity, right, and try to focus on the positivity most of the time or more of the time, would you agree that if you view the negativity, in that instance where you can choose your way, you said focus on the positive, My way, I said, I'm going to focus on the negative,
Mhm.
get used to feeling whatever that is, accept it, and then move through that to the positive.
Mhm.
Are we going the same way,
Mhm.
or are we taking two different paths?
Yeah.
You see what I
It's
mean?
a very interesting conversation. So let's first get into the linguistics,
Sure.
right?
Ooh, this is getting good.
What I said is envision your desired outcome.
Sure.
I didn't label that as positive.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't label that as negative.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you'll realize when one meditates enough, you realize, and this is what they teach in Vipassana specifically, that the game the mind plays is that there are sensations that come up, and then we label it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good or bad. It's pain or pleasure.
Right.
We try to run away from the pain, run towards pleasure. And all our mind-body container is doing is literally training us on running away from pain, running towards pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the training to get out of that cycle? The training is to be equanimous.
Equanimous.
That's the word. This is what you said earlier. It just is.
Just is.
I feel a sensation in my knee. Is it pain or is it pleasure? Or I don't need to label it, and it just is. To be equanimous, to be at equilibrium with it, not label it as pain or pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first level of training, right? As you train with that more, what you find out is that you become less reactive. Reaction is happening in the mind at every moment. This sensation I just experienced, pain or pleasure. This person I experienced, pain or pleasure. This moment I'm experiencing, pain or pleasure. Do I want to run away from it, or do I want to run towards it? Equanimous, it just is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a practice. Now, let's come to your directed scenarios, right? The way
Sure.
you were describing them. That, hey, I play out whatever is meant to happen, and I reconcile with what I believe is the negative outcome, right? So the way I look at these things, it's a valid technique. I've done it too. Like somebody who's really scared of something happening, you take them to the nth degree of whatever could happen.
Yeah, the extreme.
The extreme of whatever could
yeah.
happen, and then you say, okay, will you still be okay if that happened? And they're like, okay, then you stop fearing it.
Yeah.
It's a fair technique, yet I would say that it works at an intellectual level.
Mm.
Why? Because these narratives, these definitions of what we have built as positive and negative are just programming right here.
Mm-hmm.
These are just patterns that we are running.
Right.
So all your life, we're running these patterns. And there is a way to solve the pattern, so to say. Okay, like you have a particular pattern which you described quite well. Hey, if anything negative is expected to happen, then I just process that by going to the extreme of it and saying, okay, I'm fine with it now. I can relax. I'm not that fearful. And whatever may happen, so may it be. And that's perfectly fine. Yet, if you want to play at a different dimension, what does that require? That requires awareness.
Mm.
You people these days in pop culture, we call it mindfulness. What it is really awareness. Awareness of what? Awareness of our own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness of what program I'm running. Awareness of what labels I'm giving, a positive or negative, pain or pleasure.
Yeah.
Right? Once you have that awareness and you are less reactive, then you can direct your energy to your desired outcome. And I don't know what your desired outcome is. It could be pain or pleasure. I have no idea, right? But the part that we need to understand, as you said in your language, I prepare for it. So are you preparing it, or are you creating it
Mm.
by indulging in that worst fear of mind narrative?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Are you connecting with me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you could say, hey, I'm doing this technique where I am imagining my worst fear. Okay, great. Let's do it. But then are you creating your worst fear? Or did you actually resolve it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a question you must ask.
Yeah.
So to summarize, train your mind to be equanimous, not run towards pain or pleasure. And that gives you more groundedness, that makes you more calmer. It makes you, to use another YouTube terminology these days, makes you more stoic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then in terms of working these scenarios, you could play that technique out, and that's a fair technique, especially if it's done with a facilitator, a therapist, etc. And it's effective for some people. But I would also say that a side effect, like any medication, could be that you actually created that scenario. And now that you envisioned it so strongly,
Mm-hmm.
it may not even have happened, but now in the quantum field of possibilities, you've given it a strong possibility to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You with me?
Yep.
Right. So if you're going to operate at a different dimension,
Yeah.
at a different level of awareness, where these negative scenarios don't even have meaning for you, they don't even need to be exercised. They don't even need to be thought of because you are attuned to a different state. You're aware in a different state, and you only envision the positive desired outcomes. And then your life changes. And there's multiple instances of people that way.
Mm-hmm.
To live mindfully day in and day out, being aware day in and day out. I mean, what is enlightenment if you have to define it in simplistic, very foundational terms? It's living through life, engaging with life, and yet not labeling anything as pain or pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having that awareness and equanimity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, in our practical world, how many people do you know that actually apply that or live in that state?
Oh, it's hard.
Exactly. It requires training, and it's not that straightforward. So these are all different techniques you can use. And you can operate at a different dimension and see how that works out for you.
Mm. Very, very interesting. I love that.
We got into some weeds there, huh?
We got into some weeds. No, that's yeah. I'm gonna be more mindful about that. Yeah. And it's interesting the light that's been shed on that.
Yeah.
But speaking of light being shed on something as positive as
Mhm.
my excitement towards this new mindset that I want to try on for size. What would you say, or what happened rather, if we were to shine a light on in your life, what was your biggest mistake?
I made many mistakes, so it's hard to pick the biggest. If you live life, you just make them. Biggest failure would be that I couldn't save my mother.
Mm.
And everything else, practical life. One could debate if it was even my role to save her, or if it was my place to save her. And we can get into philosophy on that. But the biggest thing that I carry with me is the grief of not being able to save her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I share that. I got married last year in September, and 6 months later, my best man, my best friend, my longest friend, I'm an only child, so that was my brother, died in a car accident
Mm,
in Canada.
mm,
And, half of my world just disappeared.
mm,
All my expectations for life disappeared. And I haven't been able to yet process, uh, if I had done something differently, could this
mm,
have been avoided?
mm,
if I was able to bring him down here and he sees the potential and he moves here, would that then prevent that from happening?
Mm-hmm.
If business was going better and he was able to have a need to be somewhere else, would that avoid it?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I was able to draw him away from the other person that he was hanging out with, is it the other person's karma path, negativity, whatever, that caused that?
Mm-hmm.
Were they the wrong person to be around? Did they cause that? Every possible scenario. It just and it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's a weight to carry. It's a big weight to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel you on that. Yeah.
And I feel like some of these weights, you just choose to not let go.
Yeah. Choose is the word we chose. So, grief of losing a loved one, there's, according to research, there's a curve for it. It's called the Kubler curve.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through denial, and then anger, and then acceptance, and then negotiation, and coming out of it, etc. Ross Kubler curve, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So you might find yourself in one of those phases along that curve. And I have found that we carry these weights with us physically in our body, not just in our mind.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just an intellectual thing.
Right.
It's not just something that can be talked out of you, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
So in my explorations, that's why I gravitated towards a lot of different modalities. So just to backtrack a little bit, my instrument of intellect was and is quite strong. I studied computer science and I was very analytical. But what I realized is to let go and process a lot of the life that I was experiencing, the instrument of intellect wasn't enough. Analysis wasn't enough. And in fact, in a lot of cases, it was a detriment. It was a hindrance. It was an obstacle. You with me?
Yeah.
So what's needed is more of a somatic body embodiment modality. So once I got into this world of yoga and meditation, I realized that, essentially what is life? You have a mind and body container. And what connects the two is the breath. That's all the life.
Yeah.
There's nothing else going on. All what you perceive, all what you experience, your highest ecstatic moments, your worst pains, all that is experienced in that mind-body container. And till there's breath, that exists. And when there's no breath, it's game over. So talking about intellect, what I realized was somatic methodologies, modalities like ecstatic dance, like Osho's dynamic meditation, more of these physical embodied techniques are what are more helpful than just intellectual debates, conversations, therapies, etc.
Because the weight is also physical.
The weight is physical, and what's magical is, we fail to recognize this in a conscious way. Mind connects to body, but body also connects to mind.
Right.
So here's an example. If you are in a physically distraught place, for example, I put you in a hot room. Like, have you ever done hot yoga? Like, you're hot as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Your blood is boiling.
Yeah, you feel you're going to die.
You feel you're going to die. You can barely breathe. And in that moment, what does the mind do? Mind comes up with more negative thoughts.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's the body connecting to the mind.
Mm.
Not the mind connecting to the body. And then if you have a practice of equilibrium, equanimity, calming down in that state, then it's the mind telling the body, I hear you, but everything is okay.
Yeah.
right? So what I'm trying to say is we fail to use the connection of the body connecting to the mind. A lot of times, if you physically let go of things, it just evaporates in the mind. It doesn't even come up.
Mm.
It's not a methodology, and people call it woo-woo, whatever, right? It's fine. Choose the labels you want. Choose the narrative you like.
Sure.
I have no judgment. But the basic point is that you are physically carrying those traumas, those hurts, those weights,
Yeah.
those disappointments, those resentments, and sometimes you have to physically let them go.
Fuck. Wow. Wow. That's incredible. I just made the connection because I remember it was literally the fucking negotiation of like the body saying you might have a heart attack, you might fucking die, you might whatever, and then you're just like, relax, we've been through this before, it'll be fine. Like it's just another 15 minutes, just chill. And the body's like, no, but what if you die at the last minute? That would be embarrassing. That would be terrible. That'd be fucked up. It's like negotiating. Like, come on, bro, listen. Like sell me this pen. Like, listen, get out the door. It's right there. Like imagine and you're like, no. But that connection, I guess through you trying to work through grief, if it is a physical thing, then you're just working in a circle, never really accessing it. Wow.
That's the word, accessing it. You couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You conceptually, you couldn't access this through the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have to access through the body. That's why modalities like massage or acupressure or ecstatic dance or Osho's dynamic meditation. I mean, I can keep going on and on. And different things work for different people, but those are somatic methodologies. They are not intellectual. They're not analytical. You don't need to know anything to jump around. Like, like a monkey, you can just jump around.
Jump around. Yeah. Wow. Fire. Dude, I love it. Let's jump into the rapid fire round.
Okay.
What's a book that changed your life?
Oh man, to pick one book would be really challenging. How about I mention a few?
Sure.
What comes to mind? The Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda.
Yep.
The Way of a Superior Man by David Data.
Great one. Love it.
The Surrender Experiment by Michael Stinger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. What else? The Man with 1,000 Faces by Campbell. Thomas Campbell, I think.
What was that about?
It's an amazing book. It's a difficult read.
Yeah.
Campbell talks about the hero's journey.
Love it.
What is the hero's journey? There's a call to an adventure. There's a refusal to that call, perhaps. And then there's an acceptance to the call. And then the hero, mythically, has to go through the belly of the beast, has to find allies, has to find a mentor, a Yoda.
Yeah.
Has to learn to believe in himself, has to overcome obstacles. And by the way, I use hero in the terms of the book, but this is gender neutral. Hero, heroine, doesn't matter. It's the protagonist.
Yeah.
They have to go through the belly of the beast, and then they have to come out the other side at acceptance. And then they have to integrate themselves into the new life. And perhaps then there continues a cycle where there's another call to adventure. Right? So it's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
If you've heard that.
Of course.
Yeah. So that comes from that book, Man with 1,000 Faces. And he combines history and mythology and storytelling and psychology in a beautiful way.
I love it.
So I actually use that book and the hero's journey for a lot of my explorations. Yeah.
Big fan of Hero's Journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Which books comes to mind? There's a book I read on the intellectual side called Tacit Knowledge by Michael Poliani. Look it up. He's actually Polish. And after that he wrote a book which is very difficult to read but profound called Personal Knowledge by Michael Poliani. Yeah. So these that come to mind.
So you're well read. You read a lot of books.
Yeah, at one point remember I told you I went through phases where I had to sit down and go through a lot of this. And, I mean, I wouldn't call myself anything, but it was just the curiosity, and I was always searching for the next thing, the next technique, the next modality, the next way of being, and just being a seeker, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So on the Tantra side, I would say there was a book translated from Sanskrit called Vijnana Bhargava. It's a Sanskrit title, but it's available in English by Lakshman Ju, and that takes tantric yoga philosophies from sixth century.
Wow.
Right? So, like, humans have existed for a while, and we
Yeah.
just think, we were born yesterday, and we're the only ones to face this world, so to say.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of I think we as humans have discovered everything that needs to be discovered in terms of personal transformation. We just have to find the right teachers and the right sources for it.
Right.
So that book was profoundly powerful for me, in those terms. Yeah, I mean, pick a topic, we can keep going on, but I think that's sufficient.
What would 18-year-old you say about you now?
Where was I when I was 18? 18-year-old would say that I'm proud of you. It's amazing the shifts and transitions in the life you've lived. I wouldn't have imagined what I lived through when I was 18.
Amazing. Yeah. What's your biggest red flag in a person?
In a person, it's lack of keeping your commitments.
Commitment.
From small to big, things you say you're going to do and then you don't do it. Yeah, that would be it.
Commitment. Best money you ever spent?
There was a time I went to, after I'd studied with my teachers in Romania, in Thailand, I went to Romania the next year, I think, for a big yoga meditation camp. They have it in a town on the sea, on the Black Sea, called Costinest in Romania. Perhaps you know the place. And I spent maybe 15, 20 days there. And, that was the best money I spent on the flight. Met some amazing, interesting people, had amazing realizations. It accelerated. It's like a booster rocket, booster of a rocket that put me on a booster path in a certain direction. And I realized and I learned things that I would have never imagined that even existed.
What's one belief you've changed your mind on recently?
So this connects back to our previous discussion. We live in a world. There's stimulus and stimuli everywhere. We meet people, we have experiences, friends, family, lovers, siblings, children. We think we are in control, right? The belief that I've changed my mind on is that all is being manifested in this mind-body connection. What I'm trying to say there is that there is so many powers that govern the world, so to say, right? But the ultimate power is what's inside of you. So the realization, and these realizations happen in meditation world, but also for me, they happen more profoundly on plant medicines, on psychedelics, essentially, right? And the realization is that I live in the world that I am creating in my mind-body container. If I have a hurt or a resentment towards somebody, it's here. It's not that person. It's, yes, that stimulus happened, but what it is really is the program that's running here, right? And back in the day, I would have said, no, you have to deal with the person. You have to set your boundaries. And you do. I mean, you live in a practical world.
Sure.
But eventually, how things transform are exactly how you're feeling and creating inside of you. Your inner world determines the outer world. The microcosm is the macrocosm.
Yeah, project.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You are the universe.
Yeah.
The entire universe exists inside of you
Mhm.
and you and her. And whatever we create from here is what eventually transpires in our life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I love it. It does. Absolutely. So, on that note, if you had 60 seconds, leave a message for the world, what would it be?
You're not here to conform. You're not here to just follow. You're here to create, to rebel. So question everything. Question beliefs, systems, structures, even your own thoughts. And go out and create as if you're a liberated being. Because you can. Be rebellious and yet be mindful. Be a mindful rebel.
Boom. I love that. And a little bit of foreshadowing there as well. Dude, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So I think Instagram is the best way. On my technical business stuff, I'll share links with you for the course that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Blockchain strategy for business leaders. So if you want to get into that space. And I'm about to launch a podcast soon called Journey of a Mindful Rebel.
Boom.
So I'll share that on my Instagram as well when that is out. And about to launch a coaching program as well. So if you want to get deeper into these things and shift and transform your life and live your highest potential and up spiral your life, perhaps I can be of assistance.
Amazing. Dude, I love it. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I truly enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. This was a thoughtful experience. And thank you for being so present and just going with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. My man. Pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
Until next time, guys. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Today's conversation with Roop wasn't just an interview. It was a reminder of the power we all carry inside of us. The power to question, to transform, to heal, and to create a life that's aligned with who we truly are. If something in this episode moved you, challenged you, or opened a new perspective, don't let it fade. Sit with it, apply it, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And remember, you are not here to conform. You're here to grow, to rebel consciously, and to live with awareness. This is Nemology. Make sure to subscribe. Follow the podcast on every platform and stay tuned. The next episode might just be the breakthrough you've been waiting for. And until next time, this is Nemo.